Welcome, viewers and listeners, to a very special episode of Dudes with the Dead podcast. Now, do not turn this off. Stick with us. We are going to be talking about a film festival that you've probably never heard of. And we're going to be talking about short films that you've probably never heard of. But
Indeed.
These short films are some of the best horror that I've seen in 2025. So please hear us out. Give us a chance. And we're going to try and provide some links in the description to hopefully allow you to see some of these. One for sure I know you'll be able to watch. So
good.
Yeah. So that being said, we're going to do something a little different. And we're going to talk about a film festival that we went to this past weekend, a horror film festival, more importantly. This is the Vancouver Horror Show. We are located on Vancouver Island, and this has been around for a while, but they actually, for the first time, came to Vancouver Island, and we're like an hour's drive from our hometown. So we went with Francois, who's been a guest in the past for the menu.
Yeah.
And I was really impressed with the quality of the films.
Yeah.
So there was technically 9 shorts.
Yeah.
One was a trailer, kind of like a Grindhouse style trailer.
Yes.
I would say there was more 8 films, but I was really impressed. And for me, that's some of the most fun I've had watching horror in 2025. And I do think that some of these are like some of the more compelling things I've watched recently. So I always enjoy shorts when I watch them, but I almost never seek them out.
Yeah, me too, actually.
But after this, I feel like I need to spend more time seeking out shorts because it's actually a really fun way to watch horror. So if you're familiar with the other VHS series, you know, the different anthologies that, what was the most recent one? Halloween,
yeah.
I would say that if the 4 film shorts we're going to talk about today, like as a compilation anthology, for me, it would be more entertaining and of higher quality than some of those VHS compilations. So if you clicked just to see and you're dubious because you've never heard of these,
don't be dubious.
Try and stick with us and see if you can check some of these films out because I think there's some really good horror stuff here. So yeah, do you want to talk a bit about Vancouver Horror Show?
Yeah, so just before we get into our shorts. Okay, so this film festival started in 2018. As Mike said, this is the first time they were on the island. And the idea was to support particularly BC filmmakers and screenwriters. And it's been rated 35 out of 665 global film festivals. And in 2022, they actually partnered and with, who did they partner with? Cineplex. And they did the premiere of Terrifier 2 in Vancouver.
That's awesome.
I thought this was really interesting, so I'm just going to finish with this. There was a quote from the artistic director of the VHS, and she said, "What scares us is what unites us, and what unites us is powerful." So I thought that was kind of a cool quote. I would just like to echo what Maniac said earlier, which is, I wasn't sure what to expect, but I was really entertained, and I definitely thought that this group of films was better than many feature films that I've seen. Now, to be fair, it's hard to maintain that momentum for 90 minutes or 2 hours. It's much easier to do in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But I don't want to minimize or take away from the quality of what was presented to us. It was really, really good.
I think sometimes too in a short, you can maybe be a little more experimental or play with conventions a little bit more. So I felt like everything felt pretty fresh.
Yeah, absolutely.
So shout out to Dave Taylor, who's the organizer of the Vancouver Horror Show. We got to meet with him. He sold Lee a t-shirt, but ran out of larges, so I wasn't able to buy one, sadly. Francois got the last one, as far as I know.
Jerk.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to run down 4 of the 8 films.
Yeah.
So we're not going to cover them all just due to time. So we picked 4 that stood out to us. Full disclosure, it's going to be very difficult to talk about shorts without mentioning spoilers. And then we can't structure the episode like we normally do, where we talk about non-spoiler then spoiler, because we're going to do 4 different films. So if you're willing to trust us and go and check these out, the 2 I'm going to be introducing are called Cheat Meal and Don't Tell Your Mom. And then Leatherface will be doing...
what will I be doing? Neighborhood at the End of the World and The Chain are the 2 that I'm doing.
Yes. So try and seek these out. And we're going to try and we'll put links to some form of them in the description. Maybe not the entire film, but at least the filmmaker and a way to go ahead and watch it. So maybe go check them out first and then come back in. So we thought.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to jump in. I'm going to start with the first one called Cheat Meal. The synopsis is, when his girlfriend Ellie gets involved with a Svengali-like health guru named Bo, Owen goes to confront her and discovers that there may be more to this health cult than he first expected. This was directed by Drew Beirut, and the main cast is Corey Walls as Owen, And I noticed on his IMDb page, he was in Despicable Me 3 and Life of Pets 2 as a voice actor. Olivia Scott Welsh as Ellie, who you and I both commented that we felt that she looked familiar. She was in the Fear Street series on Netflix.
There you go. That's why. Because I knew right away her face was familiar.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then Link Hand as Bo. And this has a 7.7 on Internet Movie Database. So this one was the third in the 8, I believe, in terms of order that we saw. And this one was hilarious.
Yes, so good.
This is a full-out comedy. Definitely a lot of commentary on current health trends.
Yes.
So essentially you have this boyfriend whose girlfriend suddenly really gets into health and fitness. And she joins this program led by Bo. And he has like a protein line and a gym and an exercise program. And you can tell that's causing friction between him and his girlfriend. And when he starts to look into it further, it seems like there's a very cult-like atmosphere in this health organization, and he has to confront his girlfriend and the cult who is maybe taking her away from him. What was your thoughts on Cheat Meal?
Absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
Everything to me was hilarious. When we were in the theater with Francois, Francois mentioned that I actually laughed at one of the gory bits just because it was it felt like cartoonish violence to me. So yeah, really entertaining. I thought the social commentary was really interesting, and they didn't. To me, it wasn't heavy-handed. It was there for you to see, but it wasn't preaching anything. It was just offering you what they thought was there.
Yeah, and there was a really good twist at the end, so you're not quite sure to what extent his girlfriend has truly been captivated by the cult. And the funniest bits, I guess we're just doing spoilers.
Yeah, there's no other way to do it.
So earlier in the episode, or sorry, in the short, he reminisces about how he first started dating his girlfriend, Ellie, and one of their things was karaoke. And he had this song that he sang to her.
That's right.
So right when they're about to kill him and the cult has him around this table, he just starts breaking out in karaoke. And they're actually about to, as a joke, like they're going to rub his face into the treadmill that's running. And he just bursts out into song, and it's really funny. And then anyway, she ends up turning on the cult, and they take the Bo guy, and in a very grisly scene, which Leatherface was talking about, just like push his face into the tread, and you see it. You know, the practical effects were really good.
Yeah, really good. And I would say for all of the films, and I'm going to mention it in the next film, all the practicals were good. Like what I was so impressed with at this festival was none of the films appeared to be less than. They were all professionally done, great performances, good production value, good practical effects. So, and I know at least one of the films is looking at possibly writing the short into a feature.
Yes.
And there might be others there too. But yeah, it was really, really good. So much fun.
The writing was really good. Like a lot of really good jokes. Like the whole audience was, and to be fair, maybe we have a slightly more elevated experience with these shorts because we saw them at a festival in a theater with a big crowd, and maybe it would lose a little bit of something watching it at home by yourself. So maybe don't get your expectations too high, but I can't imagine that you wouldn't find this to be very funny. Now it's full out comedy for the most part.
For the most part. Yeah.
It's horror in terms of the content.
Yeah.
And a little bit of body horror, but if you don't like horror comedy, then I guess maybe you wouldn't enjoy this one.
Yeah, I'd say it leans pretty heavy into the comedy. So if that's not your thing, then probably not.
But for the festival, the first two we saw were quite dark. So this one was a nice way to kind of like release the tension and lighten up the mood. And but I mean, notable cast considering one was in Fear Street and one was in two other notable animated films. Just really enjoyable. And it's only, I think, 20 minutes, just under 20 minutes.
Yeah. And most of them fell within that like 15, 18, 20 minutes. They were all around that.
Yeah. So would you recommend Cheat Meal?
Absolutely.
And where would you rank Cheat Meal in terms of your enjoyment of all the ones that you saw?
That's a good question. It's up near the top. Maybe even number one, but it's definitely top three.
Yeah, I'm thinking top three. In terms of sheer entertainment,
yes.
There's not as much horror there, but just it was really good. So if Cheat Meal is one that I was able to find on YouTube.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Produced by the Crypt TV YouTube channel.
Yep.
So Cheat Meal you'll be able to check out in the description below. All right, moving on to... So we both recommend Cheat Meal.
The next film we're going to do is I was going to say Shane Day, but that's the director, is Neighborhood at the End of the World, directed by Shane Day. 18 minutes long, released in 2024, and it stars Azriel Dahlman, who's the young boy in this. His name's Jetson. Matthew Graham is Rick, and M.H. Keller is Abby. So the summary is: convinced that her husband has been abducted and replaced by a doppelganger, Abby Ames, with the help of her young son Jetson, takes this imposter hostage in order to force him to confess. As paranoia consumes her, she descends into violence, showing the darker side of identity and family values. So this was the first one out of the gate for the festival, I believe.
He kicked it off, yeah.
And I wasn't sure what to expect. You definitely, when you come into this film, it starts off dark. And I don't mean, although it is dark in terms of the lighting, it's also dark in terms of tone. And there's no real relenting throughout this 18 minutes. It's pretty much... there's a couple of lines, and it ends on I wouldn't say an up note, but it's certainly a little bit of a smile at the very end.
Yeah. So the cool thing is you suspect that there's a doppelganger, and you have a wife interrogating her husband.
Yeah.
But you can't tell, at least I couldn't as the audience member, which one was the doppelganger.
100%.
Because they both seem to suspect the other of being the doppelganger, but you're not sure. It's very unclear whether she is the one interrogating him or he is the one interrogating her. They both could be a doppelganger, but there is some allusion to that there's alien forces. Like in the kid's bedroom, there's like a picture of an alien pretty prominently set there. And I kind of got Body Snatchers.
I was going to say Body Snatchers and Lovecraft kind of vibe.
And maybe some John Carpenter.
Maybe.
Like what was the one we did last season?
In the Mouth of Madness?
No. But in that trilogy, it was the first one.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I thought that was the one we did. But
Prince of Darkness.
Right.
Prince of Darkness.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So, yeah, keeps you guessing. There's a little bit of comedy at the beginning. So the husband thinks that maybe this is some foreplay.
Yeah, that's right.
So he's hoping that he's tied to a chair and his wife is there. And
he says, what's the safe word?
Yeah. So there is like a little bit. You're right. It is very dark.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about this one is Shane was actually there.
Yes.
So we got to meet him before the festival started, but they did a Q&A at the end. So I actually got up and asked him a question about kind of to what extent you use comedy as a form of tension release in horror. And some people obviously go full blown into comedy, like our last one. But in this case, he said he didn't really consciously try to inject comedy, but he always kind of looks for opportunities where maybe comedy can be injected. But I kind of got the feeling that he thought that maybe there wasn't much comedy in this one.
I think that was his intent anyway. And he did say, so I won't give away the line, but there's a great line at the end of the film. And Shane was saying they were looking for something, but they weren't sure what it was. Like they wanted a little one-liner kind of thing. And then I think this was improvised, but I don't know for sure. But anyway, he said when he heard the line and he saw it performed, he knew that was the way to kind of... It wasn't the very, very end, but it was close enough.
And I kind of like that the scope of the film starts with the couple in the basement, but then you kind of getting a little bit more detail as you see more and more people that seem to have been converted to the doppelganger side. So it seems like other family members, there's neighbors. So it was very well paced and very well executed. And I feel like the way that it built, even over a very short period of time, still had like a lot of narrative drive.
I agree. And this one in particular had some really great practical effects. And that was one of the questions they asked at the end was how they did a certain thing, which I don't really want to give away. But anyway, so Shane said, they that's not what they had planned, but they found someone who had a prosthetic that they could use from another movie or from another kind of thing. And it really worked. And there were some other things too, like cutting off appendages and things like that. It worked. The practicals were really good. I've certainly seen far worse in like commercial release.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So this one works on so many levels. I think the psychology and the just trying to figure out the mystery of who is actually the doppelganger is intriguing. There's some pretty good body horror that made me squirm in a couple instances. there's enough light humor that it's fairly entertaining just in its own right. And then trying to figure out overall what is actually happening, if it's aliens or some other force.
Yeah.
So it's a very rich experience in a very short period of time. And this is one the director said he is hoping to make into a full feature. I think he's doing maybe crowdfunding of some type to get that.
Yeah, he said he was trying to get it, trying to get the funding up to a point where they think they could do it. But yeah, and he was really thoughtful. I enjoyed the Q&A and listening to him speak. And I think, how do you feel about this one as the opener to the festival?
Yeah, I thought it was really good as an opener because it had a little bit of everything. It was maybe a bit intense, but maybe that's what you want in a horror festival.
I was just wondering because that's what I thought too. It's like it's pretty intense out of the gate, and I wondered if that was their idea was, okay, let's grab them right away.
Yes,
because this one definitely did that.
Yeah, you could tell, I think, intentionally in a festival. It's interesting, right? Because in any anthology, how do you order your things? I think oftentimes it is the case that the first one, the last one are usually the strongest, right? Because you want to start strong and you want to end strong. So this one started strong, but in a way, I think that really gets your attention.
Yeah,
and also maybe appeals to different types of horror fans. So if you like aliens, if you like doppelgangers, if you like body horror, if you like suspense and mystery, like it's I think it appeals to a wider audience because it's doing a lot of different things.
I wonder how much of that was conscious. Like, I wonder if they actually said, okay, it's got this element and this element and this element. Maybe we'll start with that one. Or it seems like Shane might be one of the higher profile directors. So I wonder if that was the reason too. Yeah,
agreed on both fronts. It'd actually be interesting to interview Dave. And just the whole idea of putting on a festival and which ones do you feature and in what order do you feature them. So I think it is intentionally situated at the front because it's very strong. And for that reason, I definitely recommend Neighborhood at the End of the World.
100%. It was a very, very well done short. And this one doesn't lean as heavily into the comedy. So if you're more into it for the horror and especially body horror, I think this one will satisfy you. But yeah, really, really well done.
And that shot at the end where you have all these people out on the street looking up at something, that sort of maybe reminded me of Prince of Darkness. Of that cult outside that follows them around. That was maybe a bit evocative of John
that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but it's totally right.
All right. So going back to one of my ones I've chosen here, which is, again, a comedy. And you can tell by the title, it's called Don't Tell Your Mom. Don't Tell Your Mom. So synopsis for this one. Kyle is invited to help his dodgy cousin with a quick job, only to discover the job is at an underground blood bank for vampires, and it will cost him literal blood, sweat, and tears. Directed by Christopher Andrew Graham, who goes by Topher, I believe is his nickname. Yeah. The main cast was Mark Elliott as Kyle, Jesse Inokala as the cousin Jax, and Ariel Hansen, who plays a memorable vampire cameo. So this is a short vampire film.
Yes.
Playing with kind of the idea as blood is almost like addiction and vampires almost as junkies trying to get their blood fixed, which I thought was very clever. I'm sure this has been done before, but I actually couldn't really think of a vampire film where vampires were sort of depicted as junkies who are just needing their fix.
Not in the same way.
Not as like street people.
No, I think there are some films that maybe that's happening on an allegorical level, but not in your face like this one was.
And again, this one is not really trying to be scary. It's definitely trying to be funny. The dialogue between the two guys is really good. And even when he says like, "But don't tell your mom," and he does that a couple times through, got a lot of chuckles from the audience. What was your take on this one?
Yeah, very similar. I mean, it was really funny. I thought they did the vampire setup really well. There's a great line where the cousin says, when there's a vampire that comes to the door for their blood, and the cousin says, "We only deal with familiars. We don't deal with the vampires directly." Which, I mean, if you like vampire films, there was a lot to like about this one, and just how they were, sending up vampire films, but also playing with that idea of people getting their fix and the people giving them their fix, and how you. It dawned on me the idea of like methadone programs.
Yes.
And, where are you getting your fix from? Is it from somebody legit, or is it from somebody on a corner? It was really, really well done. The performances were like, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, really good, I thought.
Yeah. And this really plays with the vampire trope of they have to be invited in.
Yes, that was so good.
So that's kind of basically the guy who runs the place knows like you can't let them in, don't invite them in. And then one of the big twists kind of revolves around that idea, which I'll get to in a second. But the thing I like about these festivals and about a short is like when The Conjuring comes out or a Saw film comes out, like you know what you're getting, or Nosferatu. But the short just starts and you see a guy and he's walking towards a door and he knocks on the door and they're having a conversation and you have like I had no idea it was vampires. And then when you get the reveal in terms of what it actually is, it's kind of an exciting moment and kind of refreshing to just go in totally blind and have no idea what you're in for.
Yeah, it's kind of like when, you're right, because so many of the films that we see are franchise films. And you're like, okay, I know, I'm going to get Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga or whatever. So yeah, that was something that I noticed as well in all the films, is that they were so fresh because you didn't know what to expect. There was no history. There was no universe that they were relying on, from previous films. So it was really refreshing to go in that way. It's very, very rare that I get the opportunity, and I'm sure you're the same, to go into a film with knowing nothing about it.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that more and more these days, just like avoid trailers and just go in blind. And it's resulted in better cinematic experiences for me. But when you're at a festival, you don't even have the option of watching a trailer, right? You just, let's see what's next, which was really fun. The cool thing too, so Topher, the director, was also part of the live Q&A at the end. And so we got to find out that the vampire in this film was inspired by Bill Paxton's vampire character in Near Dark, which is kind of cool. I didn't necessarily pick up on that at first, but it kind of made sense once he said it.
Yeah, I got it once they said it. It wasn't as obvious as that for me either.
It was kind of cool because they said, we'll give a free t-shirt to any audience member who can guess correctly. And someone actually guessed it.
They did.
Which was pretty cool. So basically the guy who comes, the cousin, is told not to let the vampire in. And the vampire's like, okay, well, can you put some in an envelope and just leave it out there? Yeah. So of course he reaches past the threshold of the door. And then he's gone.
That's right.
And then you hear the knock the next day, and then it's him. Can I get some blood, man? Like, yeah.
You're so good.
So this one was really enjoyable. It was very fun.
It was.
Maybe not quite as polished as Cheap Meal.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
But it did have, it was very entertaining. And the whole idea of inviting in the vampire, I thought they were very clever with how they did that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking visually, it seemed like a lower budget. They didn't have as much, because I think he said somebody had a warehouse that they let them film in.
That's right.
Whereas the Cheap Meal, they had different sets. They went to different places. It was a lot slicker than this one.
That was actually really cool because the audience kind of got to ask, what was your inspiration for the films? And you're right. I think this guy got access to the location, but then built the story around seeing the location. Whereas Shane from Neighborhood End of the World had said, my inspiration was to film the idea that you wake up next to your partner, but they don't smell the same and they don't they look like them, but they don't seem like them. And that was just his whole idea for his short film. So kind of cool to see where these directors get their very first inspiration for their films from.
And I thought that was a really, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I thought that was a really kind of a cool comment, because it's something that maybe we don't think about until after we're not with somebody, but it's like their smell is actually a big thing. Mm-hmm. Like, their smell on clothes, or if they leave a perfume, cloud on your bed or whatever it is. It's just, it's a very intimate thing. I think that people who are partnered will understand. Oh yeah. And then if that's all of a sudden a little bit off, how disconcerting that would be to say, is this really the person that I think it is?
Absolutely.
And that's a frightening concept in itself. And I really liked, he was very clear about, because I think there was a question about kind of how do you come up with your ideas, or do you mine your own fears? And he was saying, I deliberately go to places that I'm afraid of. So I thought that was kind of a cool answer.
Yeah, the opportunity here, just questions from the audience and how they respond. You don't get to do that very often.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I have some family members who are suffering from dementia, and that's sort of is that idea, right? They look like them,
Yeah.
but they've changed and they're not the same. I don't think that's what he was going for necessarily, but made me think of that.
Similar circumstance though, right?
Yeah.
This isn't the person that you knew before. Yeah.
So again, I absolutely recommend Don't Tell Your Mom. And it's so much easier to recommend shorts in some ways because the time investment is so much less. Asking someone to give up 2 hours of their time versus 15 minutes of their time.
Totally.
But sorry.
No, I was going to say, like I said earlier, that the beauty of the shorts as well, particularly these ones that we're recommending because they were such high quality. Not only is it not a lot to ask, but the pacing is so good through these shorts that you don't have to wrestle with lulls in the story or wondering why they're including this scene when they could have cut it. I mean, if you've watched any of ours, that's usually my complaint is why was it over 2 hours? They could have cut some scenes. So yeah, I think these ones are really great for that very reason.
And as someone who suffered through The Strangers Chapter 2 a week ago and spent 2 hours of my life wasted doing that, watching these shorts would have been a far better use of my time.
Exactly.
All right. And should we head to our last short film for the festival?
Yes. So this is, was this the last one? I can't remember. So
again, talking about that bookend effect, I think. Yeah.
So this one's called The Chain. Again, from 2024. It was 15 minutes long. Now, I didn't find either IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes for my two.
Oh, really?
They were on the platforms, but no review. Like no number.
Oh, no score.
No
okay.
score. Yeah, for either of them.
Interesting.
So the director of this chain is Tom Hipp. Debbie Diesel, I think, is Delilah. Matthew Schmidley is Finn. And Brian Paulette is Caleb. A family's life is thrown into chaos when the father doesn't return home one night. So you can correct me if you think I'm wrong. Before I give away some of the other stuff. So this is set, it appeared to me to be in the near future.
Yep.
Sort of a dystopian future.
Yep.
And there are problems that happen to the population that has necessitated a government issue chain, which the lead female tells us at one point that it's a government issue. So that's obviously telling us that this is more widespread than this just one incident.
For sure.
The twist at the end is really good. I certainly didn't see it coming. Performances were good. Acting was good. Or that is performances. But I wanted to ask you something about, I looked up the names because I thought they were interesting. So Finn is Gaelic and generally means fair, white, or blessed.
Oh, wow.
Which was kind of interesting how his fate turns out in the film. Caleb means wholehearted or faithful. And in the Bible, the most famous Caleb is a spy that betrays. And I thought that was really...
So that's the neighbor?
Yes.
Okay.
So I thought that was really cool. Now, I don't know if they actually were thinking this, but I, as a lit teacher, I often would tell my students, and I believe this, authors, writers, screenplay writers, whatever, things aren't random. They don't just randomly spin a wheel and choose a name.
I think often with names, that is actually a thing.
So the last one is the wife, and that's Delilah, which is probably familiar for many. And that's a Hebrew origin, and it means delicate. Now, the interesting thing, of course, this is the most famous story is Samson and Delilah, where Delilah is paid, she's bribed to betray Samson. And the idea is that she cuts his hair off and takes his power.
So what made you look up the names for this one, but not the other one? Or like why, what set you down that path of looking into the names? That's really interesting.
Because my first clue was Delilah.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, I know the story of Delilah because it happens quite a bit in literature and music. So that was my first foray. And I thought, I bet you Finn, which I knew wasn't Hebrew or something, might have some idea. Finn is less fitting. Delilah for sure. What's interesting is, actually, let me say something before we come to that. So we said we were going to spoil things. So the idea of this film is, it starts with a wife and her son, and the son is special, like
crippled.
polio or something. Yeah. So the dad hasn't come home, and then it's the next morning, And the wife goes to the neighbor and says, "Hey, can I borrow your car?" He says, "No, I'll go find him and bring him home." So he does, and he's a little bit beaten up, the husband, and they're starting to question, did you get bitten? Did you get scratched? And so the first thing you might think is vampires, right? Did you get bitten? But it turns out that's not the case. So this is based on werewolf lore, and the idea of the chain is that if you suspect someone has been bitten or might be compromised, it wasn't really a chain, but you put this like leather leash.
Actually, that was kind of funny. They referred to it as a chain, but then the thing is not a chain.
It's not a chain.
Yeah.
So the idea was the wife says to the husband, "Look, if you love us, if you want to protect us, then wear the chain tonight. And if you're fine, that's great. And if you're not, then we're safe." So he's reluctant, but he agrees after some cajoling. And the neighbor, of course, is part of the cajoling to get him to do it. And then it turns out the twist at the end is that the neighbor is a werewolf and the husband is not. And so coming back to my Delilah thing, in a way, the wife betrays the husband by allowing the neighbor to convince him to put this chain on. And of course, Caleb definitely betrays.
The idea that he's a spy or whatever. Yeah.
So I just thought it was really interesting. I thought the female lead did a really, pretty good job. I thought the husband, although his part is more limited than the others, also did a good job. The neighbor, I thought, interestingly, was I didn't suspect anything. He's pretty quiet. He's just trying to help, but he
seems pretty irrelevant.
That's right.
At the beginning of the film. And then it's not to the end you realize, oh, damn.
And I got the sense that, like a good neighbor, like a good neighbor, he helps, but sometimes is reluctant. It's like, oh no, not again. I have to, bring this guy home. I got that sense of he's a reluctant helping neighbor.
Yeah.
And then I started to question, oh, okay, interesting. I wonder how long they've been neighbors. I wonder how long Caleb's been a werewolf, and it's
possible that he was turned into a werewolf not long before.
Yeah, for sure.
And because you're dealing with a short and they don't have much time to really build the world, it leaves a lot to your imagination and asks more questions than it answers. But that's kind of the fun part too.
Yeah.
Just having those unanswered questions, but trying to think like, oh yeah, I wonder. And it's interesting you said like the implication could be vampires, which I think is correct, except it opens with Bad Moon Rising.
Yes.
And they there's a title card at the beginning that says like it was a certain type of moon.
Yes.
So between Bad Moon Rising and Seeing the Moon, I kind of tips you off. That's probably werewolves.
Yeah,
But did you suspect werewolves from the beginning?
Not from the very beginning, but I picked up on those clues as well.
Yeah. And then Blue Moon, I think they.
Yeah. The opening one was the kid with the radio playing CCR, Bad Moon Rising.
Yeah.
So you had a comment when we were in theater about how they ended the film.
Yes.
So do you want to comment on that?
I do. Yeah. Okay. So I was really impressed with the restraint that this film showed. Because at first when I thought, okay, they're doing werewolves.
Yeah.
The thing we always think about in werewolf films is the transformation scene. But a low budget short, like, well, they're not going to be able to do like an American Werewolf in London style transformation. So the reveal when the guy's a vampire is awesome because he just starts stripping down naked next to this guy, preparing to become a werewolf. And he runs up the stairs and they do a shot of the feet. And you see the first shot is his 2 human feet. And then further up, they do a close-up shot and now they're animal feet.
Yeah.
And that was their transformation. I thought that's brilliant. And you hear like screaming and banging around.
Yeah.
And as we've said many times, like the best thing in horror sometimes is just not showing it and leaving it to the imagination. And that was really powerful, knowing that this guy's wife and kid are getting torn apart by a werewolf upstairs. And it's actually quite powerful.
It was, yeah.
But then they made the decision to have the door open, and then they show like the wolf, which do you want to say why you were more okay with it?
Yeah, I was okay because, again, I thought they didn't try to fool us with some transformation scene, but I felt like it was a good way to end. It definitely nails it for you. Yes, it's a werewolf, if you had any doubts. But I also thought it was a cool looking wolf. Like I thought it fit the scene. And I wondered after you made your comments like, okay, I wonder what that would have been like if he wasn't there and it just ended on the husband. But I kind of liked it, how they did it.
Yeah, I'm a little more sensitive to like CG wolves. Like, yeah, the wolf looked kind of cool, but to me, it also looked very CG or like
Oh,
not very
interesting.
realistic.
Okay, I didn't realize that was your.
Like it took me out of it because I really liked what they did with it, and I had totally had pictured what was going on up there, and then they showed, which to me kind of looked like a CG wolf. I was like, maybe that's too bad that they decided to try and show it. But
I mean, I think that comes back to something that we've talked about a lot, which is I don't always notice the CG element, or maybe I'm more accepting of that. Like, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but you've got a more critical eye when it comes to CG in particular.
And maybe because I play lots of video games or something, like it makes me think of that. But otherwise, like I really have no complaints about any of these four films. Like that's the only maybe niggle I had. But in totality, I felt this was a really good story, and it really it's just unconventional, and it plays with audience expectations a lot. Because the twist at the end I thought was very brilliant. And just the idea that, I mean, we already don't see a whole lot of werewolf films, so it was cool to see a werewolf film. But the idea that, they're well known in society and the government has like issued this thing and they're already like hyper aware that he could be a werewolf. And you don't usually see that.
No, it's usually comes out of the blue as a surprise. Yeah.
And the twist totally worked for me and I didn't see it coming. So.
No, me neither. Yeah. And it totally, how they characterize the neighbor, there wasn't even, how sometimes they give you a little hint or they misdirect you and then it turns out not to be the person. But with the neighbor, at least the short that I watched, I didn't see any of that. It was just a neighbor being a neighbor. There wasn't, and it may be going back and rewatching it, I might see something, but all of his behaviors before the end didn't clue me into anything.
Yeah. And again, I wonder if ending with a good twist is a good way to finish the festival because of these people being like, oh yeah, okay, you got one on me. And I think this one maybe hit hardest in terms of emotion as the father who's like trapped downstairs and he's totally helpless and you hear his family and they play a lot about like the whole reason he agrees to go down and ultimately get chained is his son's like, Dad, can you please do this for us? And he has a polio or a disability or something. And I feel like this was really good.
Now, did you, I was just going to mention the other films. There was one, I can't remember the name of it. It was a found footage. It was okay, but it suffered from found footage tropes as far as I was concerned. And funnily enough, I just watched another found footage one last night or the night before, and it's the same thing. It's like, oh man, there's only so much shaky cam you can like put up with. And then there was one kind of about death and the afterlife and addiction.
Yep.
Which I thought was pretty powerful as well.
Especially the acting, and she was there.
Yes.
Her performance was really good.
And then what about, how did you feel about the other, so there's two left?
Yeah, the only one that didn't quite do it for me was the woman who was looking after the old guy.
Yes.
But that was largely because that whole one revolves around like an audio tape that's found with like revealing information, which is a twist. But I found it hard to hear what was being said, so I just didn't quite make out the dialogue. Maybe I'm getting old and my ears don't work as well.
It was a nice theater, but the sound was a little bass heavy. Yes. And so especially with spoken stuff. And this one was kind of garbled speaking anyway, because it was on tape. And it was quite difficult to discern what they were saying in that one for sure.
And the other one was short. It was really cool. If you've ever seen the short Lights Out.
Oh, yeah.
It reminded me a lot of Lights Out. I almost wondered if it was like referencing it because it even uses some of the same shots. But basically, this girl's in bed, like drawing a picture.
Yes.
And then what's happening in the picture kind of happens to her. And it's this one was really short, but very atmospheric.
Yes. And creepy.
I like that one. I thought that one was good. Apologies, just we felt for time. We don't have all the information on all the films, but
I just thought I'd mention some of the other ones that were good, but we chose not to cover today.
And then Topher, who did Don't Tell Your Mom, showed almost like a trailer for Pocket Man, right? Which was hilarious.
So
this idea of this like monster that lives in people's pockets, but it was like over the top comedy, like doesn't take itself seriously, but was really got the audience laughing a lot.
And you mentioned it was kind of like Robert Rodriguez's Death Proof or whatever. What was the one they made?
So when Grindhouse came out, and it was Death Proof and the zombie one.
I know what you mean. I can't think of it. It's been a long time.
But it was a
since
double
I've seen
feature.
Yeah.
And so if you went to see it in theaters with a double feature, they had some of those trailers.
Yes.
So the Machete trailer.
I was going to say, yeah.
And the Thanksgiving trailer.
Yeah.
Both of which got made into movies, which
Yes.
is cool. And there was the Nicolas Cage, like Wolf
Yeah.
Nazis of the SS or something, where the 3 trailers. So this was kind of, I felt like done in that style, where it's kind of a fun kind of grindhouse style trailer.
Yeah, it felt that way.
Pocket Man. So maybe I'll try and put that in the description as well if I can find it.
Yeah, so I think going forward from here, what we're kind of hoping is that we really, really enjoyed this festival. And Dave Taylor, who was the organizer, and he was there kind of on behalf of VHS, he was very engaging and very easy to talk with. And so, we're kind of hoping that we can do something with the festival, especially if they come back to the island next year. So Dave, if you're listening, that's what we're hoping for. And just also, I think we wanted to do this one to bring you a little bit different side of, horror films, because we always do feature films almost always. And this is these shorts. Often in festivals, that's what you're going to be watching is a short film, unless you're at Cannes or something, but.
Yeah, and like the big feature films and the Saws and the Conjurings, they get a lot of attention. They get all the big, YouTube reviewers, but a lot of these were relatively local films made in British Columbia, Canada, but some were from the US, some were from the UK. But these shorts don't get as much attention.
No.
So I think it's cool to celebrate different elements of like the horror genre and just people who maybe don't get as much attention, but are doing really cool things. Because honestly, if you took these 4 shorts and made it into like an anthology and put it on Netflix, I think it would be super popular. I think all the top horror people would be saying how great it is. So the quality is there. And this is some of the most fun I've had watching horror.
Me too. And, I was just thinking about Damien Leone and Terrifier. And that started very low key and has turned into this, behemoth. So any one of these films, given the right set of circumstances, could do a similar thing for that director.
And it looked like the version of this VHS Vancouver Horror Show based in Vancouver this time was doing a lot of promotion of Shelby Oaks as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is cool. So that's Chris Stuckman's new...
We're excited, Chris. We want to see that film.
Yeah, I think that'll be a review we do this season for sure. So anyways, we thought it would be cool as we are from this part of the world, just to shine a light on some indie filmmakers who are doing cool stuff. Not necessarily the big budget stuff that's going to get all the Hollywood attention, but still in terms of great horror, I think worth checking out.
Shall I say what's next?
Yeah.
So if you saw our last episode or listened to it, I said we were going to do The Conjuring next. But we saw this and we're so impressed we wanted to do a review of this first. So The Conjuring will be coming out on November 15th.
Conjuring gets a backseat to the Vancouver Horror Show.
We felt that locals and short films deserved a bit of a plug, and The Conjuring's going to be there. So,
and spoilers for next episode, I enjoyed these more than The Conjuring. So.
Yeah, fair enough.
We'll talk about that next episode.
All right. Well, that's all we have for you today, I think, right? We're done.
So I will try and put as many links in the description as I can to promote these directors. And yeah, that's it.
Fantastic. All right.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you
in
in
the
the
aisles.
aisles.